All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So I haven't actually done a podcast in a while. I know I post one or two podcasts a day, and then I run into these streaks where I do a bunch whenever it kind of comes to me, but I've been extremely busy the last couple of weeks, so I haven't really sat down to do one. I had a bunch kind of in the tank. I guess you could say that I was able to post because a lot of things were coming to me. But lately I haven't done one. But I wanted to do one kind of calling myself out on my own bullshit. Because I don't think a lot of people do this. But I'm going to give you a quick idea of what happened to me this weekend. I was out with some friends we went out Saturday to hang out and do a bunch of cigars and have fun. And then I actually had a birthday gathering Sunday. And then yesterday was Monday. And then we had another get together. And it's been crazy. But I was kind of just paying attention to my behavior to a certain degree. Because I do think a lot of us pretend to be a lot more giving than we really are. I think a lot of us may pretend to be a lot more sympathetic than we are. We may think we're a lot more loving than we are. We also kind of, I think, sometimes beat ourselves up. A lot of times we may not obviously be as bad as we think we are. And I'm not here to make anybody feel bad. That's actually quite the opposite of what I want. But in this case, I kind of was in a situation which I kind of called myself out on my own nonsense. And you may pay attention to your own, because I think a lot of us, we don't really realize a lot of things that we say we don't always do. And in this case, I used to have a friend. I barely knew her, and she worked at a Five Guys in Orlando, and my daughters lived there. And I would go there, and she was very kind to me. She was a very young lady. She was a young lady. And then she would, sometimes she'd even buy my burgers. I didn't want her to do this, but she loved my two daughters, and then I would bring her in Boston Market. I knew she liked it. And she was one of my first Facebook friends. Now, let's fast forward some time. She's always kind of falling on hard times. I feel bad. But I get a lot of Facebook messages. I'm sorry, I had something in my mouth. A lot of Facebook messages. And it's people always asking me, and I don't know if they're legit or not. I usually don't respond all the time when I get them, but they're always kind of asking for money that fall on hard times. Some I can help, some I can't. In this case, I haven't seen her for a very long time. And then she started hitting me up, and I didn't know if it was a scam or not. And I'm thinking this may be a scam, but then she started to hit me up and say, Rich, I'm in a real bad situation. And all she wanted was $15. But I'm in a party, a gathering. I'm like, what does she want? This may not even be her, whatever. And then she started mentioning things that I knew only she knew. But she was stuck at a gas station. I'm like, who's got time for this shit? I don't have time for this, right? But I'm also somebody who always says, I love to help people. I'm always there if you need me, at least within my means. If you know me, that's kind of how it is. I'll always try my best to help who I can. That doesn't mean I can help everybody. But in this case, I just kind of didn't want to be bothered. And I'm going back and forth, and she's saying she's in a real bad situation. Then she starts calling me. Not once, two, three. And then she's like, Rich, we're friends. Why would you outright ignore me, not only on Messenger, but also not answer my phone calls? And then I was like, yeah, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I kind of ignoring this person, even though, I haven't seen her in a long time, and I don't think this is spam or a scam, someone doing this. Plus, it's $15. To make a long story short, I just said, hey, what's your PayPal? I couldn't take it anymore, and then I ended up sending her the money through Cash App. My girlfriend set her up, and she was so happy. I gave her additional money. I just was kind of, and I'm not saying this, believe me, to toot my own horn, you're talking about $15, $20 here. But it was quite interesting that I do always talk about that I love helping people. And then at times I realize that sometimes I don't want to be bothered. Now, we all don't want to be bothered at times. But what was kind of, what was I really like? And I did a podcast a long time ago. One of my first ones said, when you're by yourself, that's truly who you are, I think, a lot of times, because a lot of people pretend to be things they're not, especially publicly. In front of people, they may be walking around and giving, say homeless people money, but then behind closed doors, say they're walking down the street by themselves, they'll completely ignore them. Or if they're in front of people, or in groups, they're tipping big, and then privately, they're very cheap and kind of stingy. Or just, everybody, I think, to a certain degree has a public persona, maybe a personal persona, but I do believe that. A lot of times people that are preaching or telling others too how to live a certain lifestyle, as you probably see this all the time, aren't living that lifestyle. But if you're somebody out there who truly, does preach about helping people, you know what I mean? I think you really got to take a really, good look at yourself. Do you really go out of your way to help people? Because I don't think a lot of us do, or we may at times, other times we may not. Now we're not here again to help everybody in the world, but you may have friends, family members that may need you in a time of need. And you just got to step up to the plate and help them. Because I do think a lot of people out there would help us as well. You just may not need the help a lot of times. It could even be like this weekend. I always tell people I'm never going to move again. And then my stepson needed help moving. I haven't drove a truck, but I said, let's get a U-Haul, let's do this. And I basically loaded him up. We kicked it in the ass and knocked it out. And he was so grateful. And I love doing it. Again, not saying I did this because I want to just talk about myself on a podcast, but I felt really good about helping him. And it took a load off his shoulders because, it's his first time ever moving out of the house. His friends didn't mean not to show. They were just busy. They couldn't make it. So before you know it, we have to load the entire truck ourselves and unload it. And I also had plans that night, so we're kind of rushing. But I just kind of, he didn't even know how to drive a truck correctly, and then backing the truck in. And I used to move basically equipment for most of my life, including collecting money and things. But again, I had a really good weekend, and I felt really good. Just those are a couple things. But you, too, may be out there, and, if you're kind of feeling in the dumps, and again, this doesn't have anything to do with money, maybe just helping others or even asking others that need help. I created an app called You Around app, which is to help people in a time of need. But you may have friends or family members out there that you just reaching out. It could be a grandparent, you saying, hey, you need me to pick up your meds? Or, hey, parents again, kids. I think, too, and I'm going to wrap it up with this, I think a lot of us get frustrated, especially if we have kids or we have other people, because we always feel like we got to do shit for them all the time, or they need something. Everyone always kind of needs something from someone. But a lot of times that's just our immediate family. Kind of maybe step outside and say, you know what, how about, not my tight inner circle, but how about my other friends that maybe I don't see that often, or family members? How are they doing? Maybe I should just reach out on Facebook or text them, see how everything's going. If they just need whatever it is, maybe I could just bring over a pie and say hello and sit down and have, some coffee with them, or just something like that may go a long way. It's not just about money. It's about your time. So I'm going to wrap it up there. You got any questions or comments? Please feel free to hit me up. richchalenza.com is my website, and I try to help men master their self-confidence and also become self-aware of their behavior, which it's sometimes, even though I preach that all the time, I kind of forget about it myself. So take care, and I wish everyone the best.